Hi, this is Ron with kbikerepair.com, coming to you with a quick little video to help you remove and install the rear tire on your K1200LT or your K1200GT. We're shooting the video today on a 2003 K1200GT. I chose this bike over the LT. It's the same setup in the rear mechanically. The reason I picked this bike is because on the LT there's a big saddlebag that's really low on the left hand side. That's part of the bike, and it's a lot of work to get it off. The GT, when it's up on the center stand, as you can see, pretty much most of the rear tire is visible, so it's the same thing. Now on the LT model, if you're doing this on the ground in your garage, you're going to be removing the license plate panel on the rear to roll the tire out the back of the bike. I have a repair shop with a 1,300-pound professional motorcycle lift, which is the reason why you see my head and torso basically at the same height as the rear tire, because it's up about 3 feet off the ground right now, so I'm actually on my knees doing the video. What we're going to do is show you a quick way to be able to get this thing on and off and lined up without, you know, banging yourself to death and driving yourself crazy. The little tool I want to show you, I've owned one of these for years, used them in automotive, and I had forgot that they'll work on anything with this style lug nut, which is the bolt lug nut system rather than a nut lug nut system. This little tool right here, this is actually purchased through my Cornwell tool dealer. I'm looking at my monitor instead of the camera so I can make sure that I get zoomed in on this. This is, for all intents and purposes, just a dummy stud. It's a 12 millimeter by 1.50 stud that's beveled on the end. You can see the little point that they put on it right there. And what it's going to do is it's going to replace temporarily one of the lug nuts on the bike. Now, this particular bike right here is got a Michelin Road Pilot 4, however you want to say it, Pilot Road 4 GT tire on it. It's a 170/60 ZR17. This is one fat tire for this bike, and you'll see me have to wiggle it just to get it out of the back of the bike, where the LT, when I take the rear tires off the LT, they just pretty much come right out. The exhaust system is further away on the left hand side. It has a little bit more room to come out. So without further delay, let me show you how this little tool works. And for those of you that have seen one of these tools, you're probably gonna skip and go to another video, so we'll see you guys later. For those of you that have never seen one of these tools work, you're gonna go, holy cow, why didn't I ever think of that? And then we'll go from there. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna work with an impact wrench, because it takes too long on video to do this by hand. But I'm gonna remove the center stud or lug, depending on how you wanna say it. And I'm gonna set it down, and I'm gonna take the tool threaded side first. Now I will tell you, if you wanna make one of these tools yourself, simply go down to your local hardware store and buy a 12 millimeter bolt, about 3 to 4 inches long. You'll want one that only has threads for about 1 inch on the shaft. You don't want it threaded all the way up, because then it's going to scratch the inside of your wheel if you use it an awful lot. But if you find one that has a hex head on it, 3 to 4 inches long, and then only about 1 inch of threads on the end, you can cut the head of it off with a die grinder or a hacksaw, or however you want to cut it, and then bevel the end of it. That just helps it line itself back up in the wheel when you put the wheel back on. And then one addition, I have a couple of these that I've handmade for different vehicles, specifically Volkswagens, that I've used over the year that are in my box. They don't fit this particular bike, but when I make these, I take a die grinder and I cut a slot across the tip of it, so that when it's in the bike, in the event that I screw it in too far or the threads get stuck, you can put a screwdriver on it and back it back out, so you don't have to worry about trying to dig it out. So what we're going to do right now is we're just going to screw this tool in clockwise, because that's the direction of the threads. This bike's got righty-tighty, lefty-loosey bolts on it. So we're gonna put that in. I'm going in, since this is an automotive one and it's 4.5 inches long, it sticks out pretty far. That's why I said if it was me building one for this particular bike, I would cut it at about 3.5 inches and then bevel it there so that you don't have to pull the tire out so far, but the 4-inch one will work. So at this point, this is where the neat stuff comes in. We're going to take off the remaining 4 bolts. Oh, don't worry, the tire's not going to fall. At this point, usually the tire falls off and smashes your finger. So this is pretty cool because I can bring this tire out. Shoot, I can spin this thing around just like this, and it's not an issue because right now everything's on this guide pin that's in the center. So what we're going to do now is we're going to pull it past that guide pin, pull the tire down, and then I'm just going to wiggle the tire until it works its way past the exhaust pipe. And then I'm going to turn the tire around because I'm going to show you here something in just a second. So at this point, if you needed to take the guide pin back off to either service the brakes or the paralever, or even if you're just going to even take the backing off to check the crown bearing that's on the inside, which I do quite often on all my 1200s just because they're such a high failure rate. Of course, since I've been spacing them the way I've been spacing them, I haven't had a failure, but I also haven't put 1,000,000 miles on all my bikes yet. So this little spacer that's on the back side of your wheel, if you've got a K1200, you should have one of these. These things like to rattle around and slide off sometimes when you get the tire at a funky angle. The trick to these is put just a little bit of anti-seize or some sort of like clear grease, just a couple of dabs that will temporarily glue it to the wheel, and then just line the holes up the best you can, just like that. And then whatever you're done, whether you're changing your rear tire or servicing your rear differential, go ahead, this is where the fun part comes in. Go ahead and get your tire back up in there, and then set the center hole on the peg and slide that sucker in. Look at that, I can let go of the tire already. It's not going to go anywhere. Now the neat part about this is that the holes are already lined up because I had that little bit of grease back there, so those things didn't even rotate. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply put one of the lug nuts on first, and I need 2 hands, so I'm going to put you back and let you watch me from a nice safe distance. I'm basically just wiggling the tire around, and I'm going to put 2 of these in here. And for those of you that are absolutely against running impact wrenches putting tires on, I'm with you, and I am not tightening these bolts down with the impact. I'm simply snugging them up. Okay, so didn't even get a ratty tat out of that. It's an old joke we used to have in automotive. How much did you torque that tire to? 5 ratty tats. That. Get it? Okay. So anyway, now that these 2 bolts are in here and cinched up, I'm going to take my guide shaft out, guide tool, dummy stud, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to put the center one back in and cinch it up, and then I'm going to put the remaining bolts on here and cinch them up. Okay, so now at this point, get a rag and clean off my fingers. Usually I wear gloves, rubber gloves, when I'm doing these, but this bike's pretty clean. Okay, so basically, like I said, this tool is just a simple dummy stud. Most parts houses can get them, tool distributors or whatever need be. Now there's one item that we still have left to do on this, which is torquing the rear wheel down. And at this point right now, I would very much like to give a shout out to somebody back east. I'm in California, down by the San Diego coast. I would like to give a shout out to a gentleman by the name of Kurt Johnson, who's with the Illinois BMW Riders Club, and he's done a huge amount of videos for the LT, all over the charts, clutches, brake bleeding procedures, and the whole 9 yards. I've referenced a ton of his videos in my early days, even though I personally have over 30 years master mechanic experience in automotive, and I've been working on full dress touring bikes for over 25 years of that. The BMW was a different breed. It required a lot of patience, a lot of finesse, and a lot of care. And Kurt really took the time to do his videos. You can actually see he got so much better. Every video he did, he just got better and better and more comfortable, and I'm hoping to get that way too. Small things like this, shortcuts to being able to take the tire on and off the bike, are the things I'm going to try to shoot the videos for you do-it-yourselfers at home. But the reason why I brought Kurt's name up and I was plugging him was for this reason right here. So I'm going to carry you with me. You probably have already seen it. So one of the things that I struggle with is that the repair manual for the BMW lists all the torque specs, but they're all over the book. If you want to look for a torque spec, and I'll explain that here in just a minute, but right now here's what Kurt did. So we've got the rear wheel initial tightening is 36.9, and then the next line down, which is a little bit darker highlighted, rear wheel tightening is 77.4. So this is the torque spec according to Mr. Johnson's poster calculations. And I want to be the first one to say, Kurt, dude, thumbs up on that chart, man. I want you to know that in this video, take the time to listen to this, that I was already in the process of making one of those when you brought this into the arena. And I wasn't going to be producing them like you did. I was just simply going to make one for my wall, and I struggled for a while to try to figure out how I'd lay it out, and I just never got it done. It was well worth the 20 bucks I got wrapped up in it. And the reason why I've got $20 wrapped up in my poster for the LT bike is because the moment that thing touched my desk at my shop, I had my wife take it to Staples Office Supply, and they laminated it for me with a clear coat. So if I accidentally spray oil on it or brake cleaner or something like that, I mean, stuff flies around my shop all the time. You never know what's going to get wet or sprinkled on. And I wanted to be able to wipe it off. I also wanted to have something where I could take a grease pen and put notes on there and then wipe them off if I was wrong. Keeps me from buying that over and over again. So Kurt, dude, when I get to do my first BMW rally and I get to meet you, I'm gonna give you a big high five, buddy, because that's a good chart. All you guys, I'm sure Kurt would be okay with me saying his name because I'm basically plugging that thing. Everybody needs one. I don't know if he's gonna be able to print enough to go around because there's a ton of us guys out here that like them. So anyway, like I said, my name is Ron with kbikerepair.com. I'm in Murrieta, California, and my phone number is 951-579-7146. And if you have any questions or need anything serviced on your bike, give me a call. I specialize in the K1200LT and the K1200GT. Those are the only bikes right now that I'm working on. I'm truly trying to get these bikes dialed so that I know them inside and out, wiring, electrical, computer, mechanical, the whole 9 yards. Once I get all these things dialed in, then I might open myself up to working on some others. But right now, the LT and the GT are the bikes that I'm working on. And if you have one and you're in the area, check out my website. I rebuild the final drives right here. I actually stock a spare final drive for an 05 to 09. I carry the parts to rebuild a final drive. I carry the parts to rebuild the hydraulic center stand. Here at my shop, all the seals. I have a spare brand new electric starter motor for the center stand. So there's a lot of stuff I'm trying to gear myself up so that if any of the bikers are out here riding in my area for the common failures on the bike, I'll actually have stuff in stock to be able to get them up and running. So once again, my name is Ron, and please guys, like the video, share the video, send me feedback on what you want. Let me know if there's a specific video you want shot. I'll see what I can do to shoot it. We've purchased a 2006 BMW K1200LT, I'm sorry, specifically for repair videos. So all I'm going to do with that bike is tear it down and put it back together and shoot videos on doing that. So once again, we'll see you on the next video, and I sure hope you guys liked it.